I still, was this a panel?
It was a healthcare panel, and I think I'm the only one who was able to stay.
Okay, terrific. Thank you.
So, as I mentioned, I'm part of the healthcare panel. My name is Judith Goldberger, and I'm a labor and delivery nurse, as well as a volunteer pastoral caregiver. I speak from both as a nurse working with child-bearing families, and as a pastoral visitor, I've witnessed the impact on families of detention and deportation and fear. Speaking from those places, that they have a very real impact on the health of women and children. And I'll speak to that area. Dr. Shimana spoke earlier about her role from vantage point as an emergency physician, and the other people on the panel that have spoken from other areas. It's really a comprehensive impact on, very real impact on health. There are three ways. One is when people are afraid to seek care. And I don't think I have to say much to say that missed appointments can have real lifelong consequences for mothers and their babies. Just one example, preeclampsia is a complication of pregnancy that doesn't have many symptoms early on. And if you go to appointments, they'll check your blood pressure, they'll check the protein in your urine. If it doesn't get treated, a woman can have convulsions. Or if you have gum disease and you don't get it treated because you're too afraid to seek care, you can actually deliver birth, or you can give birth early. And those babies born too early, as you know, can have lifelong consequences. The chronic stress in pregnancy throws your body systems into overdrive and also suppresses your immune system, and that can have consequences. There's higher rates of early birth and higher rates of delivering very small babies. Both those kinds of infants are born compromised and can have lifelong consequences of being born small and too early. Some studies also suggest that chronic stress during a woman's childhood also makes her more likely to deliver early or have a very small baby. So a 287G agreement would add to the stress that these young women not yet of childbearing age or women of childbearing age carry fear that could have very real consequences for the children that they carry. They also have separate detention and deportation separates families and hurts children. And I've witnessed too many stories of that. Depression can interfere with a woman's ability to positively interact with her newborn during a window of early social learning and learning in general. So just three stories that I've heard. A 9-year-old who didn't want to get out of bed, didn't want to eat, didn't want to go to school after her father was detained. A 16-year-old whose father was raising her as a single parent after her mother died of cancer, attempted suicide. And those are stories that I've heard. So please don't use state resources to add to the fear and stress and real health consequences for these families. Thank you.
Your testimony. Now, are you?
I'm a former general counsel for the Department of Public Health, and I signed up for the legal
We'll hear you. Go ahead and sit and see. Please proceed. Sorry, your name again?
Thank you. I'm Peggy Wiesenberg. I'm testifying today as a private citizen, having recently retired from over 25 years as Deputy General Counsel for the Massachusetts Department of Public Health, and before that working for the Lawyers Committee for Civil Rights, the ACLU National Prison Project and Legal Services. Today I do pro bono work as an Access to Justice Fellow with a group of Boston school parents. I know from my current work that in the Boston Public Schools, that students and parents who are undocumented and live in mixed-status families are afraid of being separated. Our school superintendent, himself an immigrant, has been working hard with our unafraid educators and our mayor to create a culture of we and safe school communities. Yet, Boston is closing a school located in Mattapan, which is home to many immigrant families from Haiti, the Caribbean, and Africa. School officials are having difficulty reaching immigrant family parents and caretakers to help them choose higher performing schools for next year, because some parents and caretakers have moved or gotten new telephone numbers or now continuing to send their children to school as required by state law, but out of fear have not updated their emergency contact information. That's a problem for our Commonwealth. I want to say, as an officer of the Commonwealth who served under 8 governors, I consider H3033 to be a good government bill that ensures fiscal responsibility and transparent reporting and inspection of activities performed by local and state criminal justice employees. At the Mass Department of Public Health, I provided legal counsel to many officials, including those administering the immigrant and refugee health programs, the maternal and child health programs, violence prevention programs, and the registry of birth, marriages, and death. I'll submit written testimony later, so I'll just skip to one of the most horrific experiences I had as a young lawyer working for the department. I represented the Registry of Vital Records and Statistics, and know that every child born in Massachusetts is a U.S. citizen, irrespective of the citizenship of parents, guardians, and caretakers. The registry's vital registration partners at birth hospitals who input child and parental information on birth certificates are required by Chapter 46, Section 1 of our laws to collect name, place of birth, dates of birth of both parents and residence and surname of the child's mother, and the parental signature that such information is accurate under the pains and penalties of perjury. They do not collect passports or citizenship information, and yet from time to time an immigrant parent who gave birth in Massachusetts would come forward when registering a child for school, seeking to have vital records custodians change inaccurate information on their child's birth certificate because the immigrant had not provided an accurate surname and or place of birth or date of birth and could not register the child for school. This often led to pro se litigation in probates and family courts in Bristol, Plymouth, and Essex counties in particular, seeking judicial relief, ordering state officials to correct birth certificates for immigrants who fled their countries and had been afraid that birth registration partners at hospitals and state records keepers would collaborate with immigration officials, as you heard earlier from that East Boston physician. I know my time's up, I'll submit written testimony, but I do want you to know that I also worked with the Attorney General's office and our secretary back in the 1989-1990 period when state Capitol Police escorted unidentified, plainclothes immigration officers into the Registry of Vital Records and Statistics to get names, social security numbers, dates, and places of birth of our employees.
Thank you for that background, sir. We look forward to your testimony. Susan Corcoran? There were a few people may have unfortunately faded out. Susan Corcoran, Louise Parker. Thank you for your patience.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Louise Parker. I'm from Cambridge, where I am an organizer for our Revolution Cambridge. I'm also on faculty at UMass Boston, where I teach health policy. And I am the proud wife of an immigrant to the United States. And I wanted to, we've heard a lot of people speak already on possible economic consequences and so forth. I want to speak more about the populations that I know well, and why it's important to consider this now, in this juncture. And I've heard one of the representatives ask that earlier, and she's not here now, but I think this is a very crucial time for us to be thinking about these issues. The community that I live in is very diverse. It has immigrants from all over the world, and through my work as an organizer, I encounter people from all over the world. As a faculty member at UMass, we have we're the only public university within the Boston city border, and we have faculty and students who come from all over the world. Some of these are first-generation immigrants. Others are here visiting on visas. This is a world I know very well as an academic. My life is one that exists without borders, with people from all over the world who are here, many in this country, on actually documented visas of various sorts. It is for people who are native born, there is not an understanding of what it's like to be in this country on a visa where you have no legal rights. At any moment you could be deported. People are in terror right now, and they are fearful if they are a victim of a crime, if they see a crime. Rather than seeing our police as a community resource, they see anybody in a uniform as somebody who could threaten their livelihood, their ability to get an education, for their families to be here safely. It is not the job of community police to do the job of ICE. Whatever I feel about our immigration laws, I know are not the subject here today, and I have very strong feelings about them. But what Massachusetts can do at this juncture, at a time when the federal government has taken a very sharp turn in the way that it treats immigrants to this country, is it can say we will not participate in the wholesale rounding up of people and deporting people, and that we will protect the people who live here and provide a safe space for them to live and work and educate themselves. Thank you so much.
Thank you for your testimony. Questions from the head? Thank you so much. Ora Obama?
I just say there were some panels that were, they're all here, there's like 9 people here that were on the earlier panels.
Let me just blast this
Okay,
with
just
the
letting you know
individuals.
they're
Thank you,
there.
Katja.
Okay.
Ora Obando, Bonnie Temariello. Is Bonnie here?
Oh, she's not actually.
Richard Mangus. Alan Dector.
Yes.
All right.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
I'll speak right into the microphone.
Good job.
Yes, my name is Alan Dector, and I'm opposed to HR 3033. I did hold the testimony of Sheriff Hodgson, I did hold the testimony of Nicholas Goddard, and I did hold the testimony of Jessica Vaughn. And I just wanted to say that the United States Citizenship and Immigration Service has difficulty in vetting people that are coming here from other countries because the passports of these individuals may not be legitimate. And I also want to say that I support law enforcement. They are under a lot of strain right now. And I want to thank you very much.
Thank you for your patience. Thank you for your testimony. Questions? Thank you, sir, for coming in. Katie Belger?
I'm on one of the panels, but.
All right, okay, all right, fine. So Carlos Hernandez has testified. Drew Bassen.
Yes.
Oh, sorry.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Thank you. So I live in Framingham. I'm a town meeting member and vice chair of the precinct. I'm also a member of the Ways and Means and also a member of the Rules Committee. I am a founder of the Metro West Showing Up for Racial Justice. I also represent Welcoming Framingham, which is an organization, a part of Welcoming Massachusetts and Welcoming America. I'm also the president of the Massachusetts chapter of the Brady Campaign to Prevent Gun Violence. So by virtue of my interactions with these various groups and organizations, I had the opportunity to interact with various chief of police all over the state. And I haven't heard one single of them saying 287G is a good idea. And when so to give a particular case study of Framingham, there was a time when the Framingham Police Department did have an agreement on 287G, but they do not have it any longer. So when I asked why, I was told that it doesn't work. It doesn't help the local police in terms of intelligence, in terms of doing what the local police is supposed to do. So I'm strongly in favor of 33, and I would hope that you will give a favorable recommendation. Thank you so much.
Thank you for your testimony. Thank you for your patience. Anybody have questions? Thank you for coming in. Christine Jury, Deanna Ploss, Lori Buller, who has testified, Annie Hayes, John Buxton, I don't see, Jonathan Rodriguez, Christopher Amaral, Peggy Weisenberg, Terry Green.
Yes, but I'm in the panel.
All right, we'll get you with the panel.
No, five. Oh, okay, panel five? No, you're
What?
not on there. Oh, okay.
You're on your own.
All right.
You can handle it. You're Terry Green.
I am Terry Green.
Welcome.
Thank you, Chairman Brownsberger, and committee members. I appreciate the opportunity. My name is Terry Green, and I am a resident of Cambridge, Mass, and representing my family members' interests as well as the organization September 11th Families for Peaceful Tomorrows. My brother Donald Freeman Green perished during the attacks of September 11th, 2001. Excuse me if I get a little emotional. He was a passenger aboard United Flight 93, and himself a pilot, although he's a passenger that day. He's been recognized among the heroic passengers who wrested control of the airplane and diverted it from its likely destination of the United States Capitol. However, for me and the rest of my family, Don was a hero long before 9/11. In the way he cared, he was so passionate, both for his whole family and to others. He was an aeronautic safety engineer, saving countless lives. He volunteered on the board of Corporate Angel Network that you might have heard of. It flies cancer patients for free on unused seats in corporate jets and to their treatment. And in this way, he helped countless people and connected corporate executives to fellow Americans in need from all backgrounds across the country, and created some amazing friendships among these executives and presidents. You will recall in the days following 9/11, the rallying cry, "United we stand," and many did unite in the United States and Massachusetts and across the world from all religions, ethnic and racial backgrounds, countries of origin, residency status, to support one another and to aid those of us 9/11 family members. And today our 9/11 family members stand beside our immigrant neighbors in Massachusetts and across the nation. Some of my friends who lost loved ones, Princess Bahamdani, lost her young son, a Pakistani immigrant family. He was a first responder in New York. We honor and support so many Muslim residents and visitors to the United States. We seek true unity and security, rather than superficial measures catering just to fear and discrimination. Their Muslim contribution as educators and students and other immigrants, emergency responders, police and peace builders, researchers and workers across every field makes us stronger as we share information, cultures, and knowledge, often saving one another's lives. Make it a little longer?
Just a few moments.
All right. We cannot afford a security that's not rooted in the reality of what truly strengthens domestic and foreign policy. We will not abide using our loved ones' memories to toss aside the values and the diversity of people that underlie what America, a largely immigrant nation, founded at its heart on a commitment to freedom of religion, stands for, and what truly makes us a great nation. We will not see these values to the threat of terrorism or political expedience. And that is why we support H3033, and just, dividing against our fellow Americans makes us weak, and united we stand tall. And thank you for letting me go over.
Thank you so much. Thank you for your testimony. Questions? Thank you very much for coming in. Thank you for your patience. Edna Beltran. Now, I believe we've got several Mira panels here. So we've got a healthcare panel. Who's going to testify to?
There's a couple who have to leave.
We'll, the rest of this hearing, I believe, is yours, and there's a couple people that we heard once, maybe heard again, but you can order this and the rest of the hearings you'd like. Following the rule of 3 minutes, though. Let's stay with that. Which panel is this?
I'll make that now.
All right, okay, we're going to follow your.
Good afternoon. I want to thank you all for listening and being patient with us. My name is Ben Echevarria. I'm the Executive Director of the Welcome Project, a small local nonprofit in Somerville, Massachusetts. And you've heard some great testimony today from people talking about just what they think would happen. I have a few concerns that haven't really been addressed, particularly what this does. What does this build? Well, what happens with these agreements? The first one that really bothers me is, in reality, it opens the door for racial profiling. As a person of color and as somebody who feels that it's a real thing, something like this, these 287G agreements would allow police, for whatever reason, to act as quote-unquote federal agents and start questioning me for no reason. I'm a born citizen here in this country. My father's Puerto Rican. Naturally, we're citizens no matter where we're born on the island or here. And this specific, if we allow this to happen, it does open the door for just racial profiling in many ways. Considering Latinos are the largest group of undocumented people, my skin color, the way I look, that's what's going to happen. The other thing is, I just don't understand the finances and how this works. We're putting the burden on ourselves, on our towns, on our state. And this is where financially it just doesn't add up to me, why we're doing the job of other people. Considering the fact that we've seen court cases 100% saying you can't detain somebody for more than 3 days regardless of their status, we're putting that liability on our cities if they decide to follow these agreements. We continue to do these pieces. I personally have a struggle where we're looking at a budget and trying to figure out what we're cutting and how we're doing this, to then see and go on to really be like, wait, why are we spending money to do the work of the federal government? The other side of this that really worries me is we're starting to see targeted raids where they're coming for individuals who have just a speeding ticket 20 years ago. The 287G program, which would allow police officers to come in and act as federal agents, would open a brand new box where we're allowing people to be held over for the most ridiculous reasons in the world to be detained. Again, using our jail cells, using our own resources here in the cities or in the states. Living in Somerville, our police have already said it doesn't fly with us. It's a waste of our resources. We've seen actually less crime in our city go up faster than the national rate. We've seen an economic boom in our town when it comes to just how we are. And this is despite having a very large immigrant population in the country, or actually in the state. But yet, as I continue to go through these agreements, I just have a hard time understanding why are we allowing these agreements at our expense. Thank you.
Hi, thank you. I want to thank both Chairman Brownsberger and Cronin for the time today. My name is Katie Belgard. I'm the political director for SEIU 32BJ. We represent about 18,000 workers here in Massachusetts, janitors and security officers, most of which are immigrants from Central and South America. And we're here today because we want to testify in support of the bill for two reasons. One, because we don't believe that it makes sense in the time when we're facing budgets that are getting cut, when we're seeing cuts to janitorial contracts, when the MBTA is having to cut what they're spending there, for us to be spending our state resources on this type of thing. And two, because regardless of who it is, which law enforcement agency is doing the work, it does create fear in the communities. And when I talk with our members, whether they're documented, undocumented, they were born here or not, people are experiencing a level of fear that they haven't in the past. And while we've talked today about the existing 287G agreements in sheriffs and that those are contained to correctional facilities, this allows for people in the task force model to be out in the streets. And we know with a change in rhetoric from the national level that we may see a change in what's going on here. So we wanted to come out and wait today to make sure that folks knew that on behalf of those 18,000 workers, that we want to see state dollars spent in a responsible way, that it's their tax dollars, they work hard and pay, but also that they're sending a clear message that Massachusetts is a welcoming state and that at every level, at every opportunity, is going to do what they can to make people feel safe and connected to their local law enforcement in the communities they live. So thank you so much for your time, I appreciate it.
Thank you. Hi, my name is Maureen Gallagher, and I am the policy director at Jane Doe, which is the Massachusetts Coalition Against Sexual Assault and Domestic Violence. Thank you to the chairs and the members of the committee who are still here. I'm here to speak on behalf of our 56 member programs and the survivors of sexual and domestic violence that they serve across Massachusetts in support of H3033. I am submitting written testimony, so we'll get into the details, but really just want to address immigrant survivors of sexual and domestic violence, whose barriers are even greater than folks who aren't immigrants. They may already be isolated from services and supports because of language barriers, lack of culturally relevant services, and for many of them, the only way that there's going to be an interruption in the violence or prevention is to be able to call local law enforcement and have them intervene. And what happens is with policies such as the 287G agreements is that they blur the lines between immigration enforcement and community law enforcement, and that really endangers the safety of victims of sexual and domestic violence. It endangers their families, it endangers communities. When they're unable to safely contact law enforcement, abusers are also emboldened, as you heard today from some of the folks speaking earlier, and the impact of their violence remains unchecked. I do want to note that the federal government, under the Violence Against Women Act, has recognized the unique status and vulnerability of immigrant victims through the provisions of U visas and T visas that are created for victims of violent crime and trafficking, so that immigrants will be able to safely cooperate with law enforcement and to be able to not face repercussions from that. Those established legal protections have saved lives. Unfortunately, what you've heard time and again from folks is that the collaborations with ICE have a chilling effect, and they really do. We're hearing from our members every day about survivors who are not coming in for services, are afraid to come in for services, or are coming in for services but won't call the police, and they won't seek any kind of support and safety because of the potential repercussions. So Jane Doe and our members ask that you favorably report H3033, and also would appreciate additional provisions that actually ensure that local law enforcement won't be questioning or arresting people for immigration violations, that ensures due process for immigrants who are detained. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Who's next?
We have somebody who's
hanging in there with us and
We
listening to what we
want
have
to
to
thank
say.
you for hanging in there with us. It's a long day. I appreciate your patience.
So I'm Laura Wagner. I am a Unitarian Universalist and the Executive Director of UU Mass Action. UU Mass Action organizes and mobilizes 20,000 UUs in Massachusetts who live their values and principles of their faith by engaging in social justice. I offer testimony today in support of H3033. When the lines are blurred between local officers and ICE officials, no one is safe. We live at a time where our federal government continues to criminalize people and tear families apart. Giving into fear and terrorizing people is not new behavior. You've heard a lot of great testimony today, so I'd like to add a little context right now to remind us of why this is so important. I ask you to remember the turn of the 20th century when Italian immigrants were labeled anarchists and fear led to the execution of 2 innocent men. Several decades later, fear drove otherwise rational people to place Japanese Americans in internment camps. These are 2 extreme examples, but what I'm sure you know there are many examples of what happens when fear guides policy. An important statement can be captured in just how the most vulnerable in our communities are being targeted, and it can be found in the film The House I Live in which historian Richard Miller shares these words by Raoul Hilberg, who wrote of the destruction of the European Jews during the Holocaust. We've long known that the process of destruction is an undertaking step by step, which can be understood as links in a chain. Around the world, in more than one society, people do the same thing again and again, decade after decade, century after century. This first phase in destruction is known as identification, in which a group of people is identified as the cause of the problems in society. The second link is ostracism, where we learn how to hate these people, how to take their jobs away, how to make it harder for them to survive. And the third link is confiscation, when people lose their rights, their civil liberties, and laws are changed in which to further harm people being targeted. The fourth link is concentration, when people end up in things like camps and detention centers and are torn from their families, and it ends with annihilation. I'm also a clinical social worker, and I witnessed firsthand the impact these types of laws, these types of programs have on people. We talked about the impact of domestic violence. I watched children who it's impossible to learn in school. When you say goodbye to your parents in the morning, you never know if you're going to see them again. It's bigger than this one particular thing. We have to think about this in context. And while this is a very important bill, and I ask you to favorably vote for this bill, we have to remember this in terms of safe communities. We need more than this. We need an anti-Muslim registry. We need what the Safe Communities Bill has to offer. So it's a much bigger situation. I ask you, at least with this first step, support this bill. Thank you.
Thank you all for your commitment to this issue and to hearing all of us speak with you today. My name is Rachel Freed, and I am a mother, a community member, an immigrant, a human rights lawyer, and Vice President and Chief Program Officer of the Unitarian Universalist Service Committee. As a human rights nonprofit founded on Unitarian Universalist values, we at the UU Service Committee support H3033 to protect the inherent worth and dignity of every person. This is a state law that aligns with and enacts the principles of Unitarian Universalism. H3033 would end 287G agreements, which are harmful to both community members in Massachusetts and to police relationships within the community. One of the questions we must ask ourselves today is, are we going to let fear-mongering sheriffs such as Sarah Hodgson and others put as much of their resources they choose towards targeting immigrants and profiling based on skin color and accents during traffic stops, which also leads to harassment of Latino permanent residents, Muslims, and even citizens? We want to demonstrate that this is not okay, and Massachusetts has a moral responsibility to restrain these acts. Governor Charlie Baker has publicly stated that he opposes Massachusetts becoming a sanctuary state. He wants decisions about participating or not participating in immigration enforcement to be made at the local level by each department. But in this political moment, what does that look like? Last night, Texas Governor Greg Abbott signed SB 4 into law, a vehemently anti-immigrant law criminalizing cities that want their law enforcement to focus on safety, as if this was not in alignment with immigration and inclusive policies. Massachusetts needs to set itself apart. It needs to take concrete, proactive steps like passing H3033 and to make sure that these federal level threats and that these other threats to immigrants and members of our community do not hold up here in this great state. UUSC is proud to be based in Massachusetts, and we believe that Massachusetts can set ourselves apart. We can take a lead on healthcare for all, but we can take concrete and proactive steps. At this moment, we must ask ourselves, which side are we on? Are we on the side of our values of human freedom and dignity and inclusiveness for all and for all communities? We cannot deputize police and community decisions to the federal government and ICE. Passing this bill is a first important step, but we must also take more proactive steps to protect all communities under attack from the Trump administration and from other fear-mongering officials. This is one step forward, and we should also look at the Safe Communities Act in the future. As people of faith and conscience, we urge you to pass this bill. Thank you.
Thank you for your time and patience to listen to us. My name is Bishop Fritek Serra from the great city of Champions, Brockton, and I hope you listen to us as a young man, I came to this country to work with immigrants and refugees, and I had privilege to go to St. John's University, which I studied the immigration history in this country. You know, when the Italians came here, they came with their priests and their nuns. They create everything for themselves. We today, we come here with nobody. And you can look at it, I'm the only clergy of color here, immigrant here. When I look at the contrast of history of America and today, we feel going back again to Jim Crow, the slavery mode. I know our good friend, Sheriff from Bristol County and also from Plymouth County. And the stories of G287 is always different stories they're telling us. And I hope you are men and women of good faith and good conscience that listen to the stories that you heard here today. And I can testify under oath the fear of our families back home in Brockton. How many calls I received instead the police to receive those calls. How many times, even today, young men, you go to school, and the mother called, I can show you my texting, so you can see that's true. So there's a lot of fear in our community. And I came here to support this bill and to tell you, listen to the stories. Because 20 years from now, we're going to see what we have done, if it's right or wrong. Let us allow ourselves to listen to our story because they're painful. A few weeks ago, you remember in Brockton, a lot of people go to work. I got calls all the time. My parishioners. I have a lot of government parishioners. And I tell them, go work because we need your job. You need to feed your family. Even to go to the immigration office, to do the right thing, they're afraid to go. I have gone there so many times. And please listen and do the right thing so tomorrow we can celebrate this beautiful country of ours, be about immigrants. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your testimony. Next.
Yes.
Can I see a show of hands with who else is remaining who does wish to testify? Looks like you are. Start with the Alex. Thanks for your patience.
Okay, looks like I must. Okay. My name is Alex Matthews. I'm a Belmont resident, an immigrant, and I work in civil liberties. I have a couple of observations that have miraculously not yet been made. The first of these is that 287G programs are actually a pretty unusual thing. There aren't very many of these agreements across the country. There are perhaps a little more than 60 today across different jurisdictions across the country, and that is it. It is unusual for a Department of Corrections to participate in them. Massachusetts Department of Corrections is an exception, and it does. It is unusual for local sheriffs to have such signed agreements. And again, Massachusetts is a little bit of an outlier, that we have more of these agreements, it seems, than in other states. Massachusetts and Nevada, and maybe one other state, they're popular. You know, they're really not a big thing nationally, and we may be a little bit out of step right now in terms of over-enforcing and over-cooperating with the federal government in immigration enforcement. And I think it's fair to take that into account. On a more personal level, I used to run an agency in Waltham called the Waltham Alliance to Create Housing. And the experiences that we had of people walking in the door mirror the experiences that people have been talking about here. We had people coming in domestic violence situations who couldn't report it because of their immigration status or felt that they couldn't. We had people in wage theft situations and in a variety of different abusive situations who felt disempowered about going to the police. And so this reflects reality. This is genuinely going on. And on a personal level, as a first-generation immigrant, I know what it is like to, at least to some degree, obviously as a British immigrant, you get a pretty nice time on the whole relative to many immigrants here. But I know what it's like to live under the shadow government of ICE. I know what it's like to fear that at any moment your life could be torn away and you could be sent back to a place you don't want to be in. And so I urge you to pass H 3033 out of committee. I think it's a good piece of legislation. Thank you.
Well done. Thank you so much for your testimony. If there are no further witnesses, we want to thank you all for staying with us so long and for your testimony. Entertain a motion that the committee adjourn. Without objection, please adjourn.